Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Are All Fine, episode 47. Fine being an acronym for flawed, insecure, nervous, and emotional. And if, like me, you can claim any one of those titles, you are welcome here every single week. New episodes every Monday. I'm Heidi Lester. I'm a counsellor and psychotherapist with over 25 years' experience, and some of that I'm hoping to share with you today. So I'm really glad you've joined me for this episode. Now, last week we talked about self-care and why those routines alone won't often meet your deeper emotional needs. Now, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I gently just encourage you to go back and start there, because learning how to care for yourself lays the groundwork for our conversation today. And today we're diving into something I hear all the time in my counselling room. What is the difference between a trauma response and what people can often label as being overreactive or an overreaction? So my hope for you at the end of today's episode is you're going to understand your nervous system that little bit better, feel less shame about your reactions because they're personal to you, and have a few simple tools to help you respond more intentionally. So if you aren't already, make yourselves comfortable, grab yourselves something nice to eat, drink, etc., and you're welcome. What is a trauma response? Now, let's start with the basics. A trauma response is your nervous system doing exactly what it's designed to do, and that's protect you. It's an automatic reaction to a perceived danger, whether that danger is actually happening now or if it feels familiar from the past. You've probably heard of the main trauma responses already, the 3 Fs: fight, flight, and freeze. Fight is about anger, it's about being irritable, it's about being snappy and frustrated. If we flight, we avoid, we withdraw, we disconnect, and we distract, we get busy. And if we freeze, our nervous system will feel stuck, numb, shut down, or completely unable to decide the next move. So here's something really important that I want you to hear. Now, when people first learn about trauma responses, they often feel embarrassed or ashamed. And they'll tell me some things like, I'm so dramatic, or I shouldn't react like this. That is always nonsense. As a counsellor, my job is to gently remind them, my clients, and you, my listeners, that these responses are normal, adaptive, and protective. They might not be helpful for you anymore or in that moment, but they would have once served a purpose. So when you understand that, I think something can shift. Instead of criticizing yourself, you can start to get curious and ask, what is my nervous system trying to protect me from right now? It's that somatic connection between thoughts and feelings, listening to your body. So how do you tell the difference between an overreaction or an actual trauma response? An overreaction is usually tied to what's happening in the moment right now. So it could be stress, exhaustion, you might feel frustrated, you might feel overwhelmed. The response is big, but it's rooted in the present moment. Whereas a trauma response, on the other hand, is a little bit different. It happens when something in the present reminds your body of something from the past. So even if you're technically physically safe, as I am now right now, your nervous system, it doesn't know that. It's responding to an old alarm system. And in therapy, I often ask this simple but powerful question. Is your body responding to what's happening right now, or is it echoing something from an earlier life, from something earlier that happened in life? That pause alone is so therapeutic and helpful, and you can do this too, because that awareness will interrupt the automatic pattern and it gives you a choice. And it's the choice, you need a choice, because that's when your healing can start to begin. Let's think about how trauma shows up in everyday life then. Trauma responses, they're not always obvious or dramatic or screaming out or in your face. In fact, they can often show up quite quietly in everyday moments. You might notice things like feeling a little bit more anxious or angry, maybe than that particular situation you're in calls for, or you'll avoid things like conversations, people, or places that just feel uncomfortable. So you just automatically don't respond or don't go to those things. Or you will go numb or zone out, and you'll constantly be scanning for danger and trying to be perfect or overthink everything. They can be gentle, automatic, traumatic responses to everyday life. And in counselling, I'm going to encourage clients, if they're feeling that way, to notice those patterns first, not judge themselves. Your reactions, they're not character flaws. They're always information. See it as information. There's a processing going on between your thoughts and your feelings. And you need that information to be able to work out why you're reacting the way you are. Once you see those patterns, you can work with your nervous system instead of trying to fight against it. And at this edge of the wedge here, where you're fighting all the time, you're always going to be full of adrenaline and cortisol, which means you're not going to be fully in control of your nervous system. You're going to feel way out of control. And lots of people who come into counselling often come in at this end of that wedge. It's really, really uncomfortable. It's never going to kill you. But what we do is we look and we stop, as I'm doing here now with you, and getting you to notice your patterns first before you can implement any change. One of my jobs as a counsellor is to give tools to respond instead of reacting. So let's build up your toolkit now. Let's talk about what you can actually do when you're feeling triggered. These are simple counselling informed tools, not quick fixes, but practices that I know if you do regularly will help you over time. The first thing you have to do when you feel triggered by anything is ground yourself. This will involve you bringing attention to your body, which is something that might be quite unusual or difficult if you're so used to flighting. But I'm going to encourage you now, grounding yourself, bring attention to your body, feel your feet on the floor, notice your hands, wriggle your fingers, click them if you need to, and slow your breath. Just a little if you need to, because that grounding creates a pause. And you know, if you've listened to my podcasts, that pause is always the place change happens. And there will always be enough space to stop any automatic reaction from taking over. So we need to ground you. Just be with your breath, yourself. Breathe in for 4 and exhale out for 7. It's the longer exhale that calms down the nervous system. The second thing you do is self-validation. Try saying something to yourself that's helpful. I feel anxious right now, and that's okay. That makes sense. Always build in that's okay, because you're sending a message to your body. You're safe, you're in control. And even though it feels terribly uncomfortable, because I know anxiety eats you alive, sets your brain on fire, you need that validation that actually it's okay and I'm going to get over this. It's not about excusing the behavior. It's about removing any shame that your nervous system has there in place so you can calm yourself down. The third thing you need to do is name the trigger. So you might want to journal it or just simply say this out loud. This reminds me of, I felt like this when, I feel this is happening when. You really just need to be able to name what's going on and understand it the best you can, how it's shown up in your past. Now, when you name what's happening, your brain shifts out of survival mode and back into thinking mode. So it comes from being frightened in the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. I am in charge. I can think. I'm in control. The fourth thing you need to do now is set those boundaries. Something simple as, I just need a moment. I just need to get out of this for a situation. I just need some fresh air. Go to a window, get out the room, go and get yourself a cup of tea, glass of water. Just put a little boundary in place. It will give your nervous system space to regulate before things become uncomfortable and you escalate. And finally, breathe. Any kind of regulation exercise is paramount here. Those slow inhales and exhales, gentle counting, as we've just talked about there, or progressive muscle relaxation. It's when you calm your body, your mind will calm behind it. You have to get your nervous system under some kind of leveled control, regulate it in some way with the techniques I've just shared with you, and your mind will follow behind you. So I'm going to share a counselling perspective now on self-compassion, and I want to leave you with this reminder. Trauma responses, they're learned protective strategies. Nothing to do with you feeling weak or wrong or broken or any of that. Healing won't happen through self-criticism. It can't. It will happen through you being curious, compassionate, and by using repetition in responding to those reactions. Practice, practice, practice. So small practices like we've done here, done consistently, will slowly teach your nervous system that it's safe to respond differently. That's the key here. We can't stop the triggers, we can't stop how we feel, but we can certainly change our approaches to those sensations. And here's a tip I often share in counselling. Instead of calling yourself overreactive, try viewing your reactions as data. They're clues, they're never verdicts. It's that information. We need the information to make ourselves feel more comfortable and bring in those techniques of regulating our emotions. Before we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with a few gentle questions to reflect on. I've got 3 of them. The first one is this: where in your life do your reactions feel bigger than the situation? The second question: could those reactions be connected to past experiences rather than the present moment? And the third question: what one small practice could you try the next time you feel triggered? Thank you so much for spending your time with me this week. Understanding the difference between a trauma response and an overreaction, I think, is a really powerful step forward towards your self-awareness, increasing it, controlling your emotional regulation, and building self-compassion. 3 things you need to get your mental health into a much fitter state. Next week, I am going to be talking about inner child healing. Now, what it really is and what it isn't. We'll explore this in a grounded, therapeutic way, no cliches, and I'm going to look at practical steps that you can use to nurture and heal that smaller inner child part of yourself. Have a lovely, lovely week. And remember, your nervous system is not trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you. It's doing everything right. And with awareness and practice, you can respond with care, intention, and compassion. We are all flawed, insecure, nervous, and emotional, but always remember, be yourself. You are no one else. Have the best week ever. If you want to contact me, Heidi, weareallfine@gmail.com, or pop over to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can say hello to me there. Please leave a review, share the show. I'd be interested in anything you have to say that could help me improve, or any new topics or anything that I could make a video about or a podcast about. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for listeners. I love my job. I absolutely love counselling. And if I can share a teeny tiny bit of what I've learned over my fantastic career, because I've been very, very lucky to work as a therapist for as long as I have with fantastic people. If I can give you a little bit of that, that makes you feel a little bit better, it's a win-win for us all. Have a gorgeous week, and I'll see you soon. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitution for professional advice or personal diagnosis. These opinions are my own, and I do not guarantee the accuracy of all information shared. This podcast does not create a counselling relationship with you. I'm not intending to do that. And I want to encourage you to always consult a qualified mental health professional if you've got any concerns.